the men are under an immense amount of pressure, usually self-imposed pressure. Now, they don't like to show it because that's kind of just what men do. They have a way of not talking or showing emotions. Um, you probably need to know that men are operating on a lot of these old cliches. A lot of them, a lot of the clients I work with, they like to reference Hollywood romance scenarios that don't really apply. Certainly not, in modern day and age. Um, you also need to know that men are constantly being fed into confusion from conflicting advice about this is what women want and this is how you get a woman. And so they're very mixed up. They really are.
Welcome to yourbrilliance.com. I'm your host, Amy Waterman. Men have it so easy when it comes to dating right. They can make the first move on anyone they want. Well, we women have to sit back with our hands tied, waiting for some guy to pick us. They can show up on a first date in a flannel shirt and scruffy shoes. Well, you have to spend all week primping and waxing and trying on every outfit in your closet. It's just not fair. But what you may not realize is what's going on underneath that smooth facade. Men struggle with dating just as much as we do. They don't know how to catch a woman's eye. They don't know how to move things past that first date. And they don't even know if they're good enough for you. Today's guest takes us behind the curtain and reveals what men secretly talk about behind closed doors. Eric Leonhard is a dating coach based in Portland, Oregon. He works with men and women from all walks of life, providing services such as mock dates and online dating profile reviews. His goal is to provide practical, ethical, scientifically sound guidance to get his clients the love they seek. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you so much, Amy. It is so nice to meet you. I've been perusing your website, really like what you're doing, and I'm glad that I can be instrumental in helping you. So
I am really excited because you're a dating coach for men and women, and I have to ask the question, who really needs dating advice more? Is it men or is it women?
There's no good answer to that question. They're both struggling. If you want to do, one or the other has worse problems. There's just no way to quantify that, not in a scientific sense, certainly. So no one will ever agree. Women will always insist that they have more problems. Men will always insist that they have more problems. So we will call it that. I'm just going to say that they're both struggling a lot. I do work with both of them. I'm going to tell you that my male clients probably need a little bit more of hand holding. A lot of the male clients are very long term, and I can do more short term work with some of the women. It's a lot of practical feedback with the women, and the men, I have to really shoot down some of these negative attitudes that they have. They put themselves under just so much pressure. So they're both men and women. They're really struggling.
So I want to know what some of these negative attitudes that men have that have made them struggling in dating.
It's really interesting for men, and I think to a lesser degree, sorts of things don't apply to women as much, but men just are constantly webbed up in a field of misinformation. They're taking advice from everyone else. It usually contradicts itself at some point. They don't know who to listen to, but they're operating off of a lot of cliches, a lot of myths. A lot of, you're supposed to act confident, right? Women are going to be attracted if you're acting confident. Well, the truth is, no, women can see through that when you're just acting something, right? You either are confident or you're not confident. So, men have a lot of pressure, usually self-imposed pressure, because they feel like, as you probably know, in traditional society, they feel like they need to be the breadwinner. Which puts a little more pressure on them. Not only do they have to date, but they have to prove that they make good money and that they can take care of the girl. As it turns out, women aren't so much concerned with that, but a lot of men still do kind of operate on that myth. Actually, you don't have to be all that successful in all fronts as a male. You can entertain someone and have fun, and she's not going to reject you just because you don't make six figures a year.
That is so interesting. I want to just interject here because one of the issues I have definitely found in dating is that instead of coming onto a date hoping to create an emotional connection, their focus is they drop little things like, oh, I've got my Mercedes back, at home, or, oh yes, this job is very, and I sometimes think it's so ham-handed that instead of endearing me to him, is putting me off.
Yeah, you're right. That's a lot of men operating under some notion that you can somehow convince your date to like or to love you using logic and rationale. And well, that's not how dating works, and that's not the purpose. Um, you can never actually talk a woman into liking you because of something you have or something you own. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's personality or if it's a material item like a Mercedes Benz. There has to be an emotional association there. She has to like you because she thinks you're fun or exciting or sweet, but above all else, just intriguing, really.
So these guys then, they're operating off from a lot of cliches. Are they just people who, maybe they don't have the skills, they don't have the looks, and they need real hand holding into what to wear and exactly what to say? Or are these guys just kind of the player type who are just looking to hook up with a lot of women and want the skills to hack their way into a woman's brain?
Great question. Um, And as such, I bring up the point that I'm not what's called a pickup artist, and there certainly are men who are seeking pickup artists, and I do get these phone calls. Uh, they seem to not understand that that's not what I do. In fact, I think about 25% of phone calls or inquiries that I get are from the types who essentially just want to do hookups. And I don't go any further than that one phone call with them. I don't work with those people. Now, I'm going to tell you that 100% of the clients that I take, they all have one thing in common. They want to get married, or I should say they are working towards a long-term relationship. That is their goal. That's usually determined on their age. I do have clients as young as 20. They also want that long-term relationship, but they're okay with dating around a little bit before they get there, of course, and that's just absolutely fine. The older the client, usually the more interested they are in jumping into a long-term relationship as soon as possible. But they're all very sincere and interested in marriage ultimately. So
So that's
yeah.
one of those things that sometimes women don't see about men, especially if you go on some of those dating apps where it seems to be more hookup related. It seems like these guys just want to establish sexual interest, and if it's not there, they're going to move on because they're not interested in that emotional connection. So you actually, what would you say of the percentage of single guys out there? How many are actually marriage minded?
A percentage of all the single guys out there, this is something you really have to break down by age. Because if you're looking at an age from 20 to say 24, or something, say university age, right? Typical university age students, we would expect them to want to engage in hookup behavior because that's just kind of what people do at that age. They're exploring. But someone who's 40, we would not expect that, right? Certainly someone who's 40, they probably have a developed career. They've probably enriched their lives already with different beliefs and hobbies, passions, things that they love. They know who they are as an identity, and thus they are ready to merge with another person. So I can't give you exact percentages on that. That seems like the sort of thing that we could maybe do some research on, though. I think there might be some good statistics out there, but I will say that you really need to break it down by age. Okay, the older the client, the more serious they are about the long-term relationship, typically. Um, but we do have to give a lot of men credit. It's very easy just to determine. You can go on Tinder. Okay, it looks like everyone's looking for hookups. There's actually a lot of men out there who really want something more. There are also a lot of men who start with wanting hookups, and then a little bit into it, they realize, this isn't fulfilling. And I kind of like this girl I'm seeing now, and I want to take that up a notch.
So I have
They
to
do.
ask you the question then, is there any secret technique women can use to weed out the guys who aren't relationship minded and focus on just attracting men who want something long term?
Ooh, weeding out. Great question. Through the lens of a dating app, dating apps are pretty tricky because people will put up whatever they want to. They don't necessarily represent themselves. Um, you should look for anything that's, obviously if they say they want hookups, you can avoid that, right? But in terms of weeding out, that's actually pretty tough. You want anyone, a high quality, what I call a high quality date coming from male perspective, someone who actually put the effort in to fill out their profile entirely, to have uploaded good quality photos, especially if they got professional photography, because that means they made an investment. So simply by the fact that the male is taking the dating app process seriously, that's probably your best sign right there.
So you actually do online dating profile reviews, and you actually, this is what I love about this. It's not just you doing this review. You actually recruit a panel of opposite sex folks to look at these profiles.
That's true. Um, I'm just one man. I have one opinion. And who am I to argue with actual women, right, when doing these reviews? So we like to keep this as empirical as possible. That's sort of my claim to fame, is I want all my conclusions to be evidence-based, at least to the highest degree that we can. So typically what I do, if you have a male client who wants to do a profile review, I will go ahead and hire a panel of women, a large panel of women. If it's a female, they typically want a male review panel and such. So yeah, and so we actually get a lot of great feedback. We get statistical power because of that. I can actually say, you know, I thought that photo of you holding that beer was okay, but 80% of the women reviewing your profile did not like that. They were put off by it. And then as such, we cannot argue with those numbers. Okay, these are actual women saying this. So, and we have the statistical power, right? The numbers backing it up. So yeah.
That is fantastic. I love the fact that you actually get people's advice on it. So if somebody is trying to create a profile and wants to make sure that it succeeds online, what do men really look for? You said they look for really good quality photos. They look for the fact that you've taken the time to fill it all out. Are there any other quick tips you could give us for a profile that would attract a man's attention?
Yes, in fact, I will do you one better here. I am going to get some tips that actually come from the reviewers themselves, okay? Because I've summarized this into frequencies. So now you're talking about a theoretical woman, right, who has a profile up, okay? So let's go to what the men have to say here. I'm actually going to, the best way to do this, of course, is to tell you the things that men note that they don't like the most. So what we know to kind of stay away from those and to do the polar opposite. But let me give you a few frequencies here. So one of the things that men really state the most, that my reviewers state the most, is that they really dislike the use of bullet points or anything that looks scripted in a woman's profile. In other words, it cannot be too formalized. Don't take this too seriously. Most of them say that that's very off-putting. Similarly, and I almost feel funny saying this, but this just occurs so much, absolutely stay away from Snapchat filters. Stay away from use of emoticons or any type of icon that is kind of communicating your interest for you. Men don't read those things. They're very direct, very rational people. They just see doodles, that's all. So actually say what your interests are, right? And perhaps most importantly is just to keep it lighthearted. Throw in a joke. Show that you have a sense of personality. That's very important because men are very turned off by women who are just, here's what I'm about, list it out. This is highly formalized for me. No, they want to have fun. They want to know that you're a fun-loving person. Those are the single biggest frequencies that I get back from men who are doing these reviews.
That is fabulous. You know, some of those I wouldn't have guessed. I have heard the one about Snapchat filters myself from online dating. Guys are like, thank goodness your pictures are of you and not like bunny ears or something.
Right.
But I want to talk about something else too. You not only offer these online dating profile reviews, but you offer something that I have heard very few other people offer. You actually, if a client wants to, can take them out on a mock date.
Yes, that's right, a mock date. And it's funny because when I first started this, mock dates, they were sort of an auxiliary service. If you wanted to get away and have a good time out, go to dinner, you could do that, and that would also give you the chance to practice your dating skills. However, I found them to be incredibly valuable diagnostic tools, just so powerful now that I actually require them of all clients. Typically, the way a mock date works, okay, if you're a female client, I will typically do the mock date myself. If you're a male client, I have a female colleague. She's just absolutely amazing at what she does. Men or women, when they come and see me, they often know that something is amiss, but they don't quite know what's wrong. They don't know what they're missing or why they're having trouble getting that second date, that follow-up date, right? So I say, okay, let's do the mock date. We try to do that as soon as possible, figure out diagnostically what the problem is. And from just a single date, going to dinner for 1 hour, that's all an introductory date is, we have a whole basket full of stuff to work with coming from that. That can range anything from body language. We've got clients who typically exhibit and sort of like induced anxiety behaviors. They're shaking or they're hunched over, and they might not be aware of this. I think more so it has a lot to do with conversational skills. A lot of my clients really struggle with that. But yeah, the mock dates are really fun. So you got to go to dinner, you got to actually practice in the way that a musician needs to practice their instrument. They can't just talk about musical theory all day, right? They need to actually apply that skill. Mock dates are also used for more direct skill development. I have a lot of men who want to work on approaching women. I will actually send them out dancing, for example, because that's typically a safe venue, just as a baby step to go ahead and ask a woman like, hey, would you like to come together for a little bit, right? Yeah, so and anything, whatever's appropriate for their context and their skill that they're working on, absolutely.
So what sort of things, like going back to women for the moment, what sort of things do you see women, what missteps are women making on those first dates?
So whether this is right or wrong, women are really focused on, almost obsessed with how they know that they need to be attractive. They assume that they're sort of the more passive role in the dating arrangement. And that's okay. That's one way of doing it. But women are going to find a lot of success if they actually do something that kind of breaks a gender norm, actually. If they say, hey, let me buy you a drink. The reason for that is, well, it's because the man feels acknowledged, really. That's not something that's typical, right? So now in terms of like being on the date, women can do a lot to make themselves seem more attractive. It's really about how men just overall feel very underappreciated. Giving credit to a man for anything he has done is one of the best things that you can do. Make him feel like he is an attractive person, right? It's somewhat stroking your ego, but it's not in a malicious way, of course, right? It's still very genuine. I did have a female client recently. She matched with a firefighter, right? And so this guy's got muscles. He's got what I don't got. He's got muscles. And she merely let in with a compliment saying like, wow, like you've got big muscles. That sounds kind of cheesy at first, but she qualified it by saying, I can see physical health is very important to you. And that's a very attractive thing that you're taking care of yourself, right? A very genuine compliment. In the meantime, he feels like she noticed my muscles. And that's kind of the key to being attractive, right? Is give men credit for the things that they're doing. And we see it with a lot of dates, they're just so passive. No one's really saying anything about the other person, right? And we need to end that.
I love that. So I want to ask you, what's the biggest, most important thing women need to know about these men they're meeting on dates? What's going through these guys' hearts and minds that we women really, really need to know about?
The men are under an immense amount of pressure, usually self-imposed pressure. Now, they don't like to show it because that's kind of just what men do. They have a way of not talking or showing emotions. You probably need to know that men are operating on a lot of these old cliches. A lot of the clients I work with, they like to reference Hollywood romance scenarios that don't really apply, certainly not, in modern day and age. You also need to know that men are constantly being fed into confusion from conflicting advice about this is what women want and this is how you get a woman. And so they're very mixed up. They really are. It's possible that they've even had some other professional training that gave them some bad advice, right? And it may not be organically coming from them, but they don't know who to listen to. And they're very nervous because of that. They really are. They will try to act confident, but they put themselves under a lot of pressure as just always having to be the one who's pursuing, right? That doesn't mean that's how it should be, but that is how a lot of men think of it. They're the ones who are pursuing. They're supposed to be active and engaging.
That sounds tough. Oh, so ladies, if you want to find out how you can work with Eric, we have a link for you. Just go to yourbrilliance.org/Eric. That's yourbrilliance.org/ERIC. Eric, thank you so much for taking the time to come onto the show and talk to us. And I wondered if you had any last message you would like to leave our viewers with.
Yes, I do. Your dating success partially depends on how you answer the question, what is a date to you? What do you actually think is happening on a date? You want to stay away from sort of the, well, if first date's an interview. This really is not a forum for you to be gauging one another's likability. Forget about that. A date is more like a vacation. If you are being taken out by a male, I want you to allow yourself to receive this gift, allow yourself to be entertained. Okay, just accept whatever it is he brings. This is a vacation for you. Allow yourself to be served and have fun.
I love that. Thank you so much, Eric. And thank you out there for watching. We hope to see you again soon. Until then, let your brilliance shine.